Peace everyone, Unmask Art here, and welcome back to another episode of Peaceful Pastels. Hope you're having a great day. In today's episode, we are going to be creating a serene seascape with a small sailboat. The colors we'll be using are from the Season 1 starter pack. You can get your starter pack by using the link in the description. Also, make sure you are subscribed so you don't miss new episodes. Okay, let's go ahead and get started. So we're going to start this project off very much like all of the previous projects by creating the sky. And to start with, I'm going to use the pure lavender color. I'm going to just create the skyline right in the middle of the page. So I'm just going to bring the light lavender, or the pure lavender, across the center here. And this lavender color is going to be coming up to about here. And I'll just kind of fill in that space. We're going to create a little bit of a sunset type of sky for our scene here. And that's why we're going to start with a bit of lavender. And add a little bit of our light cobalt right at the bottom of this pure lavender. Something like that. And now we are going to grab our cool gray number 1. We're going to fill in a little bit of the paper with the cool gray right above the lavender. Just a little bit of cool gray there, just like that. Now we're gonna grab our bolder color, our lovely tangerine, and we'll bring in a little bit of our tangerine color now, right above the gray that we just added. And then above the tangerine, we're going to add some zinc yellow. There we go. Go a little bit higher with the zinc yellow. I'm going to leave a little hole right here. This is kind of where the sun's going to be coming from. And then if you remember from the previous episode, in order to transition from the yellow into the blue of the sky, you have to create a little bit of a buffer. So we're going to add the cool gray number 1 at the top part of the yellow and just kind of add a little bit of this gray right above the yellow. There we go. And now we can start adding in our powder blue for the blue part of the sky. So I'm just going to start at the top of the gray here and bring in the powder blue. And we'll just fill up the rest of the page with that powder blue before we jump over to our super bright cyan color and add some nice bright cyan up at the top. There we go. Bring a little bit of that cyan down here into the lavender as well. There we go. And then I'm going to grab the white. We're going to put the white right where the sun is going to be kind of shining, and we're going to spread this this out, we're going to kind of blend a little bit almost with the white here. And we're going to lighten up the gray, and we're going to lighten up the yellow. So we're going to add a nice generous amount of this white here. We can always bring back that saturation with adding more colors. Let's see here, I'm going to throw a little bit of white up here into the powder blue and the cyan, and these will just kind of give us a foundation for some clouds that we might sprinkle up into the sky. A little bit of white down here in the lavender. There we go. All right, I think that's going to be a good foundation, so we're going to go ahead and start blending. Now for blending this sky, you're going to want to start where the sky is the brightest. So we're going to start right here where the sun is appearing, and we're just going to start smoothing everything out and slowly work our way into some of the darker colors. So I'm going to stay in the yellow area and maybe just touch that gray. I am going to avoid the blue for now. I want to do the yellow and the orange, so the zinc yellow and the tangerine color. Those are the colors that I want to focus on right now as far as blending goes. So I'll just smooth out these areas. And I keep getting questions about the tool that I'm using here. So this little blue sponge knife that I am using is called a soft tool. Soft is spelled with 2 F's for some weird reason. But you get this soft tool along with the replacement sponges in the starter kit for season 1. But if you want to buy this just as itself, there is a link to it on the starter kit. So if you click the starter kit link that's in the description, take you over to everything that is in the starter kit. The starter kit includes this soft knife with the sponges. It includes a pack of the pastel mat that I use in every episode. And then of course, the link also includes all of the pastels that I use through these projects. So you can get everything in one spot, but if you want to get just this knife, you can just click on just the knife in the starter kit and just get this. All right, now that that's blended out, I'm going to jump down to the lavender color. So I'm going to take the tangerine color, I'm going to start moving it down into the lavender very, very slowly. I don't want to bring the lavender into the tangerine and definitely not into the yellow because purple is the complement to yellow, and you're going to start getting kind of a brownish gray if you bring the purple into the yellow. So you got to be a little cautious of that. So I'm just going to bring the tangerine down into the lavender a bit and work my way down. And I'm trying to do long horizontal blending motion to hide all of the imperfections and lines in the sky. Looks like I need a little bit more lavender. Now that I'm down at the bottom, just work my way into the cyan and the light cobalt for the horizon. And for the horizon, don't worry if you drag the color down a little bit farther than intended. We're going to cover up that horizon with water, of course. Another thing you want to make sure that you do is have a nice straight horizon line. If it helps you, you could put a piece of tape across the center, right where you want the horizon line to stop. It's not totally necessary, but it is something that you can do if you want. All right, now that I've kind of got a little bit of purple and a little bit of blue onto my blender, I'm just going to jump up into the powder blue here, starting right there at the top of the gray where we kind of stopped. And I'll just blend out the top part of the sky, try to get it nice and smooth. Remember, long motions all the way across the page is going to make this process a little bit easier when it comes to blending, especially skies. And we'll use this same kind of technique for the water as well because, well, it's pretty much the same, the water in the sky. So you can see how that additional white that we added in the sky kind of creates a little light spots for some cloud activity up there. So it's really, really, really easy to create wonderful looking skies like this. And once we start adding some more colors to our collection of pastels, you can just bring in all kinds of awesome colors into skies like this. And those kind of skies will come in season 2. All right. You know, I'm almost completely satisfied with this sky, but I think I want to add just a little bit more color. So what I'm going to do here is grab the pure lavender color and add a little bit more of it down here so I can cover up the paper just a bit more. And I really want this lavender color to show up nicely. It is a really nice color, so. All right, that's good. Let's do a little bit of white just to brighten up some of those spots there where the sky's peeking through the cloud cover. So a little bit of white here and a little bit more of that lovely tangerine. There we go. Maybe put a little bit more tangerine up here. Really, really, really brighten that tangerine color. And let's see here. Let's go with a little bit of the cool gray number 1 just to add some vibrancy diversity. What I mean by that is by using some of the gray, we're going to kind of tone down the lavender color. It won't be as intense and it will kind of create layers and not make it look so flat. So some of that saturation diversity really helps kind of make the sky look like it has layers of clouds. And I'm also going to use this to create kind of a body of a cloud up here in the powder blue part of the sky. So I'll put a cloud there, and I think maybe I'll put a nice big cloud kind of just running up the sky here like this. Just like that. Now let's add a touch of white on our clouds there. So I'm going to add a nice little touch of white on the bottom part. Since the sun is underneath the clouds here, the highlight goes on the bottom, not the top. So just add a little bit of white on the bottom part of the clouds here. Just like that. And maybe a touch of shadow. So I'm going to use the pure lavender color for some shadow on the top side of the cloud. So just a touch of the pure lavender up at the top. Not too much. I don't want to add a whole bunch of this color. Just enough to kind of give the illusion that the cloud has a shadow. And maybe a bit of the light cobalt, just to go a tiny bit darker for the shadows of the cloud. So some pure lavender, some light cobalt, and we should have a really nice looking cloud when we blend it out. There we go. Let's see here, let's grab the blender now, and I'm gonna I'm going to start with the clouds up at the top since they're a little bit lighter. So I'm just going to gently blend those out. All right, there we are. I think those clouds look pretty good. And then I'm going to come back down here to the pure lavender and just do one last blending of this. Blend out where we added some of that extra gray there. And you can start to see how it subtly creates some layers, kind of making it look more like cloud cover. And then gently smooth out some of this extra tangerine that we added in here. There we go. Just a few little pinholes in the clouds make it look really nice. All right, and I think that does it for the sky. So now we're going to move on to the water. Okay, so the first color we're going to use for the water is the cool gray number 1. We're actually just going to fill in the entire water with this color. Now, with this color, you want to create the sharp edge of your horizon line. So we're going to do that first with a few slow passes with the gray here. You might have to work up into the sky just a tiny bit to get that edge as sharp as you can. And we're just going to fill in the water. Now with the water, since it's going to have waves, a little bit of perspective comes into play here. And one thing you want to avoid is perfectly horizontal lines in the water, because depending on which angle you're looking at the water, the waves are going to tilt based on your perspective. And so what we're going to do is we're going to kind of create an imaginary dot right here at the edge. So just picture a dot that ends right there at the horizon line. And then imagine that that dot is connected to the bottom right corner of our painting here. So connect that with just a single line here. And you're going to use this as your guide for creating the direction of the waves in the water. So you're always going to start at that point. You're always going to start right there at that point, and each time you come over, you're just going to continue in this fan-like pattern. So you're always going to start at that same dot, but you're going to slowly flatten out as you get closer and closer to the top or to the horizon here. So you see how it fans up consistently, but it always starts at that dot. And then we'll do the same thing as we come down here. We'll just start fanning out. Now, as we get down here, we still want the water to go somewhat horizontally. So down here, we're going to break the rules a little bit. And so we're only going to go so steep, because if you start at this dot, you're going to start going vertically, which doesn't work. So it works for everything above that line. But down here, we want to stay somewhat horizontal. So we're going to just kind of stick with this pattern. And as you can see, it already starts to look a little bit like a wave pattern, except everything's gray. So that's how you can kind of maintain a little bit of realism in your perspective If you don't have much experience with perspective, don't worry about it. If you connect these two dots on your project and you simply fan out from this starting point, you're going to have a really good idea of how the perspective works. All right, now that that's laid in, over top of the gray, we're going to add some of the tangerine color. Very small amount of the tangerine color. And we're going to use all of those lines as a guide. So we're just going to fan out our tangerine color right there with our lines, just like we did with the gray. So there's our touch of tangerine. And we're going to, of course, add some of our powder blue. Again, we're going to be working in the same direction. Always work in that direction. Once you establish your pattern of water, just stick with that and you'll be in good shape. All right, let's add a little bit of lavender now, our pure lavender color. Since that's a big part of the sky, so I'm going to add it up here kind of towards the horizon, since that's where the lavender kind of shows up. And just a touch of the light cobalt down here at the bottom. There we go. All right, let's blend this out and kind of see what we're working with here. So I'm going to start right here where the tangerine color is. You can use your blending knife here to really fine-tune your horizon line, kind of smooth it out and make it as flat as possible. When you're blending, also blend in the direction that you've applied your colors. So you want to blend also in that direction. So use your pattern layout accordingly. And it might even be easier to blend like this as opposed to like this, so you can follow that pattern a little bit more consistently. Try to get that horizon line as flat as possible. And there we go. You might have to make some minor adjustments to your directionality of your waves. And you can do that by applying more layers. You can also alter it a little bit subtly with blending. I feel like it should flatten out just a little bit more than I have it sketched in here. So I'm just going to kind of flatten it out a little bit more. As it gets closer to the viewer, it should be a little bit flatter. So that's a pretty good foundation for the water. We have a lot of the colors that we need. Now we just need to kind of work on like value changes and creating some of those small ripples and waves that show up in the water. But I want to blend it out really soft. I don't want any like obvious texture that's showing up right now. So I'm just going to keep blending it out until it's nice and smooth. It's pretty close to what we need. Good colors, I think. All right. So now what we want to do is we want to start creating a little bit of the wave-like texture. And to do that, essentially we'll just use all of those colors that we just used and kind of put them in spots that will brighten them up. And then also we'll use some of the dark gray to create kind of the darker parts of the water. So the first color I am going to use is our lovely tangerine color. And I'm going to kind of focus this tangerine color right where it's brightest. So I'll just kind of follow my direction that I've created and work this color right where the tangerine color is kind of brightest in the sky. So just kind of in this general area. I'm just going to kind of work our way down in the water like this. So a little bit of the tangerine color. Now I'm going to switch to our pure lavender, and I'm going to do the same thing with the pure lavender, but I'm going to work it into the sides, kind of like around the tangerine. A little bit over here as well. Let's add some of it down here over some shadow. And that's what we are doing. We're creating small shadows which are going to create waves in the water by adding these darker colors. The gray, the cool gray number 1 is more the watercolor, and then the colors that we're adding here are kind of the shadows of the water. And that's where like the color comes in. Now let's add a little bit of the powder blue. Now the powder blue is a bit brighter, so this is almost like highlights in the water. Just kind of creating some dashes here and there. And let's add a little bit more of the light cobalt for some of the dark shadows up in the front. All right, let's go ahead and blend this out, see how our water is starting to look. So I'll just start here where the tangerine is and very gently blend it out. We want those ripples to show up, so we don't want to like soften all of it completely. Just want to kind of get rid of the grainy texture that the pastel creates on the paper. There we go. It's really starting to look like water now. Alright, I'm going to jump back to the light cobalt. I'm going to show you a little technique for the texture up in the front. So what you want to do is kind of create like one line, and then you want to zigzag up like this. So you want to create little zigzags. Up, back, and just kind of feel where this color belongs. So you can see some of the zigzags exist just by the way we've applied the colors in kind of these horizontal-esque lines. And you just can kind of find a corner there and zigzag it. Something like this. So just a few little zigzags is all it takes. And then we'll just blend those out. And what that does is it kind of creates that in-between area of waves. So what surrounds this is kind of the raised part of the water. And these are important for the foreground area of the water to create that water texture. And then once you create the low areas of the water, you can use other colors to create the surrounding highlights or the top edges of the water. So we'll just kind of soften those zigzag patterns that we created. And you can kind of see the water, the way it's moving around these shapes here. Now, it's a very subtle thing, so you don't want to go crazy with like a million zigzags in your water. As you can see, I only added like 4, and that's really all it takes sometimes. You don't have to make a lot of them. And then now I'm just going to take a bit of white, and I'm going to go over top. So the top edges, I'm just going to add a little sprinkle of white right at the top. Now blend out white out. And that's kind of the top edge of the little water ripple where the light is kind of shining through. And let's add a few highlights in front. I'm going to try to use a nice edge. So right where the sun is, I want to create a few of the smallest possible highlights through the tangerine color, right where the light is hitting. Something like that. And gently smooth it out. There we go. And now the last thing that we're going to do is add in the boat. Okay, so for the boat, I'm going to try to make this as simple as possible, so you don't need to have superhuman drawing abilities to do it. What I'm going to do is I'm going to pick a spot So I'm going to put it about here in the water, and I'm going to create somewhat of a flat line, kind of a slight curve like this. And then from that line, I'm just going to add the sides of the boat, which are just going to be small slants going outward. So a shape just like that. From that, I will add kind of a top part of the boat, kind of arching up. So I'm going to connect those two lines with like an arch. And just fill that in. Just like that. And you can take your blender, use the very corner of it to blend out the shape, kind of get the best edges that you can. Now, if you have pastel pencils, this might be a little bit easier to sketch out with pastel pencils, so feel free to do that. But you can do it with just the soft pastels we have here, so just gotta be very careful, take your time with it. Next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna add the sail to the boat. What we're gonna do, now this is gonna take a little bit of bravery, so from right here on the boat, we're just gonna draw a line that goes up like that, maybe a little bit higher. There we go. So just draw a line that goes up like that. And then a little bit from the top, we're going to come down and draw kind of a rounded triangle. Go a little bit wider than that. So something like that. That's basically the shape you want to go for. And on the other side, we'll do the same thing but a little bit smaller. So we'll just come down here like this and then curl in. And then you just want to fill that space. So we'll just fill this up. Like that. We'll take our blender and we'll just kind of fill it in. Trying to keep the sharpest edges that we can. If you want to get a sharp edge on your black pastel, I actually took my craft knife and I chipped it. So I cut just a little bit of the pastel off to give me that sharp edge so that I can draw some finer details with it. And if it's not filling up, just add a little bit more black there. And then blend it out. And you might have to do this 1 or 2 times to get your boat the way you want it to look. But even if a little bit of color still shows through, that's fine. It doesn't have to be pure black to look good, as long as you get it kind of close. You can even add a touch of the light lavender to add like a bit of a highlight to the boat, to the sail, kind of make it like the light shining through. Very subtle change. And then the last thing to do is add the shadow of the boat. So what we're going to do is we're going to kind of create those zigzags with the black following the wave pattern. So something like that. And we'll just very carefully blend that out. We want to smooth it. We don't want to spread it. We just want to smooth it. So try to keep the edge of your blending brush only where the black is. So something like that. And then maybe in the distance, a few little birds flying. So we'll just do some birds in the distance. I think that will look nice. And there we go. Now for everyone's favorite part, the untaping. Nothing finishes off a pastel project like untaping. And here we are, everyone, our finished painting. I hope you enjoyed following along on this project. I would love to see your pastel painting, so when you share it on social media, be sure to tag it with hashtag Peaceful Pastels. Thank you again for watching. Make sure you are subscribed so you don't miss the next episode. Give the video a thumbs up and have a wonderful day. And I'll see you next time. Take care. Peace.